Good afternoon to you. Mark Suttoth, HurricaneTrack here. Wednesday now, the 16th of October, 2024. So very good to see you this afternoon. Still watching a couple of areas out here. But honestly, the really good news here, nothing's really going to develop that we have to be too concerned about, especially for the lower 48, where I realize most of the interest in these videos comes from. But even for our friends in the Caribbean, the Lesser Antilles, the Western Caribbean, nothing too significant is expected, although there still will be some impacts. And keeping it in that perspective that yes, there will be impacts, we do indeed have a couple of areas to watch. So we'll take a look at that. And I've got some video for you. I've been going through all the stuff, well, as much as I can anyway, hours and hours of it, from Milton. And today I'm going to show you some highlights. The eye of Hurricane Milton captured by one of our cameras, and then the storm surge that came in from Sarasota. So stick around to the end of today's update and I'll show you that. All right? And I won't forget this time. I almost forgot the other day when I was showing one of the other cameras. What was that? Punta Gorda? Anyway, satellite animation this afternoon. There's Invest Area 94L, so we'll put a 94 up for that. And then we have a system over here that's trying to get together and congeal in the Western Caribbean. But we're out of phase of the MJO. We really don't have any good forcing across this entire area. Forcing meaning any way to get deep convection to go. To force it up is a simple way to put it. That's just not happening right now because, as I said, we are out of phase. Also note, I mean, this is October 16th and we still have these Saharan air intrusions out into the Atlantic. Really interesting stuff there that has dominated all season long, it seems like. Very warm, dry air, despite the very warm ocean. And all that we were thinking about that, we missed about 4 weeks or so of just very little activity. And so a lot is going to be studied as to why we are getting so much of this dry air coming off of Africa. And it's not just the dust. People that say, oh, the dust is choking everything off. The dust is a sign. It's kind of part of the symptom. But, I want to know why. Why is the dry air so prevalent out here? Story for another day, but people will be working on it, that is for sure. Meanwhile, there's the front sagging south into Florida. Thank goodness for that. You can even see, the way the overall convergence is, the air kind of squeezing together. This front's going to make it pretty far to the south. Dry, stable air along the northern Gulf region. Hurricane season quickly coming to a close. Yes, I know as well as anybody else that follows this stuff, you can still get something developing and coming up anywhere in this region between now and the end of November. We know that that is possible, but you're really going to start to limit the impacts unless it's moving really fast. So that is good news after all that we have been through in this, especially early to mid-September on. We had Francine, we had Helene, we had Milton. Just wow, right? We know, we've been there. Nothing to worry about right now of any consequence. The early morning outlook from the National Hurricane Center. This is not an invest area. If it does make it to that status, it will be 95L or invest area AL94, whatever. We just shorten it to, or 95, sorry, if it makes it to there. We just shorten it because we're lazy, I guess. This is 94L. See, they even say it in there, AL94. If I move the mouse off, it goes away. But AL94, AL, of course, is for Atlantic, 30% and 40%. Has a little bit of an opportunity, and it still could bring some squally weather to parts of the Caribbean over here, and maybe even some heavy rain through this area. And, rain is an impact. Of course it is. So we do need to watch for that. But anything organized that could develop into a name system, it doesn't look as likely overall. But both of these systems will have impacts by way of heavy rain, and both of these regions that they are heading into are vulnerable to said heavy rain. So, we do have to pay attention, especially if we live down there. But in terms of anybody worried about anything affecting the lower 48, the southeast U.S., Gulf of Mexico, No, it's not happening. I can confidently say these two systems will not have any direct impacts on our weather. Several people that I've seen the last day or so in person in and around my hometown here in Wilmington have directly asked me, what about those other systems that are coming? And it's from bad information from other sources. That's all I'm going to say. It's terrible that it's just, anyway, I'll just mind what I'm doing here and let the other stuff just happen. All right, so there's the vorticity signature of 94L. Definitely has a good framework with it, but the convection, the thunderstorm activity, not so good. And the forcing, like I said, is not there either. I'll show you a close-up of this in a minute through this little post up here from our friend Mike Adcock. And then the Western Caribbean energy is stretched out over sort of a large area, and therefore it's not bundling. Those are your keys to the game, so to speak. That's what you look for. And neither of these systems are really doing much. Now, again, that does have the vorticity signature, but, and now on to this post here from Mr. Adcock, yes, there are some gale force winds on the far west side of 94L, but combination of the drier air through here and just other factors not allowing that deep thunderstorm activity to go, and certainly not to allow it to wrap around, this has limited overall development potential, but it's not zero, that's for sure. So we'll watch this as it continues to march towards the west, maybe dipping south of west a hair. And again, that could bring some squally weather to our friends over in the islands. So let's switch this over. We'll use the color blue to make stuff highlight as we need it. The 94L is off the screen over here. There is the vorticity signature. Now look, come on. You gotta agree. That's pretty cool. This is the GFS 850 millibar, 5,000 feet in the atmosphere, the 12Z. This is the analysis. So this is like the starting point. And look, there is your shape of the vorticity down in the Western Caribbean, and that is a computer model rendering of it. And then, of course, this is what it looks like from the satellite analysis. And yes, this is a satellite product. They match. Isn't that cool? I think it is. It's good to see. I like it when stuff makes sense and that the model has a good grasp on things. So there it is. There's the vorticity signature of our feature in the Caribbean Sea. Now let's just watch what happens with all this stuff. Not a lot. Let me get my telestration away. That'll help see things clearer. We're out at about 30 hours. Let's just take it to 36. And our 94L just really not that prevalent. What is it, about right there, I think? Or is it not come in yet? I don't even know. Yeah, it's not come in. Well, yeah, there it is. So you see how paltry it is. So we'll focus on this down here. A little bit of turning, some organization. You can see these wind barbs in here. And this to me says rain, and very heavy rain at that. This yellow in here, very little signature, also means rain as this spreads through the islands of the Northeast Caribbean. This is a big spread out mid-latitude system off of the mid-Atlantic. Nothing to be concerned with tropically, that's for sure. Could be a big wave maker in rough seas kind of thing. And look, you can see the front that extends off of it all the way down. You gotta love it. Almost making it to the Cayman Islands. Almost. Not quite. But that's what you want to see this time of year to start shutting things down. Enough of the hurricane shenanigans. 48 hours, and then finally around 60. You know, it wouldn't surprise me if we get a short-lived tropical depression or a storm just riding the north coast of Honduras down here in the Gulf of Honduras. We shall see. That's a pretty well-defined mid-latitude storm. But you notice the height lines in here all spread out. The energy not concentrated too much, but right around the center, maybe, just maybe, this becomes a candidate for a subtropical storm. We'll have to see. Not entirely convinced of it. Let's look at it on the precip. And, yeah, too much dry air in there and the fronts associated with it. So I doubt it. But boy, look at all that. That's not dry air down there. That's a lot of moisture. There's our other feature right in here. A lot of rainfall, especially for Central America. We can back this up and you can see that feature move in there. Yeah, maybe 1,006 millibar surface low. could be a brief depression moving right into the southern part of Belize there, skirting along the north coast of Honduras, and then finally getting on over into Guatemala, possibly. That's about 4 days out. But look at all the brown through here after what we have dealt with. You love it, don't you? I mean, it's cool, dry fall air, that's for sure. Northwest flow through here. Even some snow in the mountains lately, where they were just devastated, absolutely devastated by Helene and the rainfall and even the wind up there, trees down the Blue Ridge Parkway. Boy, it's going to be at least a generation before things return to a new version of normal in that region. But seriously, as much as I am into tracking hurricanes and developed everything around it, it is good to see things nice and quiet. We have been through a lot, and at least for the next week or so, it doesn't look like anything else is coming to really give us any problems. We can keep running this out, and I'll show you the dry air, all that brown. You love to see it. Going to drop the humidity values down over Florida. Look at that, folks. Northwesterly flow. Fantastic. Even the front finally does make it down. It looks like close to the Cayman Islands, and we're out at 1 week. This takes us out to October 23rd, and the tropics pretty much rolled up. Now, I got to at least balance it out. We are not finished yet. The hurricane season probably has one more shot coming up for something to get going. And we'll just leave it at that by looking at the GEFS, as the ensemble forecast system, for the Madden-Julian oscillation. This is what helps the forcing. So instead of sinking air, you have more rising air. And the overall idea, I guess let's highlight it with this red color here. The overall idea is for it to become more favorable towards the end of the month. These are the different ensemble members. There's your ensemble mean. I believe that's correct. And it's headed out of the unfavorable phase and much more aiming towards the favorable phases of phases 8 and 1, which favors the Western Hemisphere and Africa. That's, farther down the road, so we'll wait and see. The Euro, actually more pronounced with it, honestly. Very robust signal from the ECMWF that we head towards favorable phases as we round out October and get into early November. And the areas that I would watch the most, and I would and I will, we use a satellite picture here, and we'll use red for this. I will be watching this area the closest. Right through here, something could get going. We've seen that before. Not unusual. So there's nothing, oh, wow, that's never happened before. I don't want to hear that. Yes, it has. And yes, we will be watching closely, and hopefully these fronts will keep coming down, and whatever happens, it's got to go somewhere. We don't want anybody singled out, but we certainly don't want anything in the lower 48 if we can avoid it. But again, that's not up to us, despite what you hear and see on social media. All you can do is laugh sometimes. So let's look at this. This is no laughing matter. It's actually pretty cool. Our remote camera system absolutely coming through again this year in some pretty spectacular ways, going back and analyzing the data, because now that it is over, these different thumbnail clips you see here, some of these are 1 hour chunks, some of them are shorter, they're time lapses or whatever. I'm building the library. This stuff does help become data. We can start extracting things like the wind movement, the storm surge, the timing, the flow, who was out there, the social science part. That's also fascinating. How many people were out there? There should be 0. They're forecasting something like 10 to 15 feet in Sarasota, at least 9 to 12, right? I think they were in the 10 to 15. And yet there's people driving around on the main road out there. What is that, 41 or something? I don't know for sure, but you'll see. I'll show you. And so it's just stuff like that, starting to pull the science out of what we accomplished out there, and we get ready for presentations at conferences and workshops and things like that. So let's just take a look. This, the Sarasota camera, and this was down Tamiami Trail in 10th or something like that. I can't remember exactly. It's okay. We will make sure we remember when it's important, and I also want to turn the volume down. We don't need to hear all that wind. So this is 7 p.m. to 8 p.m., so this is that hour. And I do want my telestrator back. There we go. So let's just zip through. This is cool because I can do, basically scrub through and see the time lapse. Notice the direction of the clouds. As I scroll through, you can see them a lot better. That's another cool thing about this. The cloud motion is this way, basically offshore. That's interesting. Gulf of Mexico sitting out here. And this is north, basically this way. All right. And our flow was basically offshore. All right, so let's watch this. We go all the way through, and a couple of power flashes that we catch once in a while. Let's see if I can find one. There's one. Go right there. Go back a little bit. You'll see the little power flash. There it is. A lot more coming, though, that's for sure. A little bit of traffic out there, and the wind picking up, but then the eye comes over, and you can see that basically starting about right here. Now, you can't see into the eye. You do see people driving around like, what are you doing out there? It's like a hurricane, but whatever. No storm surge. As you can see, the eye went right over Siesta Key and Sarasota, and you can see it really does get calm right in here. Look at that. This is real-time video, and there's hardly any wind whatsoever. And if you just look up, if you're standing there, that's the eye. It's clouded over, low clouds for sure, but that was the eye, is the eye, whatever, of Milton. Now check this out. Let me see if I can find it. Look at that. See that? These are those birds that were in the eye. Watch right up here. There they come. Birds in the eye of Hurricane Milton. That was kind of neat. They might be local. I can't say for sure that they traveled with the eye, but definitely some birds flying around. We can go back a few seconds. There they are. There's one. And you see more start to come through. So interesting. Birds flying around in the eye. Very common thing, and it was even mentioned by some of the Hurricane Hunter reports earlier. So there's the eye, nice and calm. Now look what starts to happen. Notice the clouds up here at the top. Now they're blowing this way, more onshore, and that is the key as to what happens next. See that? Clouds are coming back onshore. A lot of traffic now. Like, what in the world? Look at all these people. Are these storm chasers? Are they just locals? Like, what is the deal? Hey, look, it was 41. I thought I knew my road network down there. But yeah, people are out driving around. I guess they're just hoping that that surge stays away, because watch how quick the surge comes up. All right, so this is the 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour, I believe. Yep. And then we have the 9 to 10 o'clock, the next hour. And now you got people walking around, running, in fact, out for a jog maybe, I don't know. Now the clouds are definitely moving and the wind flow is onshore. All kinds of people out and about. And then watch how fast. This is just 1 hour. Look at that. There's the surge. You can start to see it. It's interesting because it spills in down the edges and then fills in any low area first. And then it really starts to amplify a couple feet. But watch how quickly that surge does come in as I just scroll through this, and then you get the other side of the eye wall coming in, and all of a sudden, there's your storm surge. Pretty spectacular to see. The lights did stay on, which made it a lot easier to see everything, and then some of the lights started to fail, of course. Nothing, we didn't get 10 feet or anything, which is great, obviously, but it worked. Camera captured the surge coming in, and you can clearly see that the wind flow is now coming at the camera, and that's the surge. The wind just acts right on the top of the water, pushing it onshore. That's storm surge, and it has nowhere to go but up, and it does get higher and higher, and then finally the power goes out. I think it stays out after this, but yeah, that's the surge. And then there's a couple of really bright power flashes that I caught, seeing if I can find those before we got to just let this go. When we put together a documentary one day, we'll single out all the highlights. But really fascinating to see that the camera captured that surge like that. We'll just jump back over here. So yeah, you go from the eye to full-on storm surge in less than an hour. And had it been a much stronger eye wall that pushed in there, like a well-developed core, this could have been 5, 6, 7 feet higher, and that would have been very, very dangerous for anybody that was out there. So yeah, just wanted to show you that, an interesting capture from our camera system there in Sarasota. Really appreciate CJ and Matt assisting me to get that set up. And we're continuing to refine this stuff, make it even better. Got some incredible things already in the works. I'm using the old phone here to communicate with people that support the project. Always engineering better ways to do this because we want to be able to capture these impacts. We want to show people in real time what's happening and be ready for the next time we do get a Helene or a Milton or a Michael or a Katrina or any number of one of these names that are forever etched in our memories as having significant societal impacts to our great country and even other countries of the Caribbean. We're even working with folks in the Cayman Islands and elsewhere across the Virgin Islands. I realize that's U.S. and British territories, but you get the idea. Always working hard to be ready for the next time. All right? Luckily, nothing coming up anytime soon for field ops, so that's great. Absolutely. I need some rest anyway. I got to work on other stuff. Thanks for tuning in from all of us at HurricaneTrack. I appreciate it. And hey, if you're watching this on YouTube and you haven't subscribed yet, what's the harm? Do it. Let's get to that 500,000 subscriber count. I'm serious. If we do that, I can put all these cameras up there and we won't have to have them all relegated to our supporters. We'll still figure some stuff out, certainly. We're not walking away from Patreon, but it'll enable me to financially support the project while also sharing more and more and more. That is how that works. Your support, literally just by subscribing to the channel, helps to make all of that happen. So there you go. All right. Have a good rest of your Wednesday. I'm Mark Sudduth. I'll talk to you again tomorrow.